welcome back to another video. This is a bit of a random one. It's definitely more a project than I thought it would be. Let me just show you. So essentially, this was a late 90s petrol pump, actually diesel in this case. I bought it 2020 or 2021. It's been sat for a while. I knew it was pretty crunchy when I got it, but the actual pole has really suffered. And when I was going to move it to the yard area at the back, it actually went really bendy. To save actually smashing it or breaking it further, I literally just took a Sawzall through it and cut it in half. You can see here, it was pretty crunchy, pretty nasty. So now the aim is one, to attach that to that. But whilst doing it, I also need to actually restore it, get rid of all the crud. You can't smell it, but it really stinks of diesel, so it needs a good degreaser, a good cleaning. I do have the other parts, so the different screen, all like the bevel bits where you've got the counters in here, to make this bit look a lot prettier. My aim is to kind of restore it to a point where it looks really good. I'll probably polish the shiny bits, repaint the bits black. I've got some nice logos to go on here. Wiring wise, I would just keep the bit to make the lights and that and this piece work. I'm not going to bother kind of restoring it to the point where it actually pumps diesel. I'll never need that. I might even strip out some of the internals because it is super heavy. Probably one of the reasons why it didn't actually move too well. So yeah, next step is I'm going to tear into it, see how easy it comes apart. Once it's apart, give it a good clean, and then work out how I'm actually going to weld it all back together and what the next steps are. Fingers crossed, it's not as bad as it looks. Let's try and get the side covers off. It also came with this bit, which is knackered. It's full of spiders. Sure, they just don't lift off that easy. They must be missing some clips. Yeah. Come with me. Let's take a look what it looks like inside. So yeah, it's pretty nasty in there. Lots of bugs, dirt, old diesel. I think the next step will be, actually, it looks like these bits also come off. I might try and get the front and the back panels off, and then give it a clean on the inside, get all the gunk and diesel off so it doesn't stink and get filthy dirt when we're working on it. And then we're going to work out what wiring we need to keep to make the light in the top part work. And then we'll go about stripping it down some more. Wish me luck. I should maybe take it into the garden and put the pressure wash on it. Let's give it a squirt. We can always come back and clean it again. Hopefully to at least get the first layer of gunk off and then I can pressure wash it. It is super crusty though. This cleaner smells good though. Right, it's cleaned-ish. Basically, if you can see in here, I've just cleaned all the junk, crud, spider webs, insects, bugs, whatever was in there, creepy crawlies. So now at least we can kind of see what we need to tidy up, clean up, where we want to just maintain it. I'm not saying we want to make it perfect, but like if we get all the rust and bits and pieces off here, get some primer paint, at least it will kind of last a bit longer. Like I said, this isn't a full restoration, it's just kind of a refresh to make it look good as a bit of yard art. I'm thinking also, I don't need all the cabling. I'm not going to make it all function. I don't even need the pumps nut to work. I just need the light inside this bit over here to work. So I'll probably trace which cables are going to make that work and then just kind of rewire that with the one single wire rather than using all of this down here. Also, as you can probably see, it is super heavy. I think my aim is going to be to take all of this out. So the pump, the motors, all of the bit that's add weight in here, I'm just going to remove. I'm thinking all of these bits will make it heavy enough that it shouldn't be top heavy when this is all fitted back on the top. So I think next the aim is going to be, let's get it stripped down, get it back to the frame, and then once we've got it to the frame, we can go, well, we can see what we want to do next. Do we refresh it? Is it really bad? It shouldn't be. Let's give it a strip down and go from there. So I was hoping just to unbolt. You see these bolt holes? Just unbolt these and then take the whole kind of area out whilst undoing the bottom bolts. However, what you can see here, this whole tube is welded down the back. It's blocking some bolts, and also I can't actually slide this plate here out because it's welded to this plate. So now I'm going to have to undo all of the bolts and the gaskets to remove these bits individually, but I'm committed. Let's carry on. Progress has been made. Sorry, avoid the bright light. Progress has been made. Let me just bring you back in. So as you can see here, it is completely now stripped out. And did actually manage to get this big back plate out. It is completely rotted out though, so it needs to be replaced. I'll probably cut that off and put some new sheet metal in. All the motors, generators, pumps, belts, they're all here, you can see. I do have the serial number off the pump itself, so I'll put these on Marketplace, eBay, see if I can get rid of them to a new home. It's a shame just to kind of bin them. I would keep them for another project, but honestly, too many projects backing up. If you see this upload and it's only been a week, message me, I might still have them. Next, we're going to move on to this one. Get all the junk and rubbish out, see if we can get this kind of stripped back. And then what I want to do is kind of grind off all the crud and rust and actually restore and repaint all the frames just so they last a lot longer. So, got to start on this bit and then I'll keep you updated. Well, the yard, garage, the whole workshop is trashed, but you can see I've managed to grind most of the loose and more stubborn corrosion and rust off, and all the old flaky paint, that's all now off. Frame wise, I've just kind of taken it down, got as much off as I can. See, I've done the same on the base down here. Next I'm going to shoot with some primer and then just get some kind of black hammerite or metal paint just to seal this up. This is the inside, so there'll be panels on here anyway, so I just want to do a kind of half decent job to protect it for a bit longer. This side, with the top part of the unit which I reattach, I'm going to have to kind of actually go a lot more into the prep, primer, and then a couple of layers of really solid paint just to protect that. I think my next job though is going to be to cut this square and then bevel that so I can get some tack welds into this piece, and again I'll cut this square so I can butt that up. Then I'm going to get some kind of 3mm mild steel plate and actually plate the whole way around the floor to put like a sleeve on it, and we'll weld that in. That'll then get that kind of structurally strong enough, and it also means the two parts will become one. The only really annoying bit is, you can see this corner here, I'm going to have to probably cut this section out and plate that in there with some new metal, but it's very thin. What I might do is just try and put a patch panel over the top and then form that on this side. But let's get the pole done first and the frame will have painted black, and then we'll reattach and see the next steps. the old slice and dice. Let's get this ready, and then it's time for some chop chop. It's a quick update, or maybe not so quick. I've actually done quite a lot and forgot to film it, but here's where we're up to. So I cut some sheet metal. I think it was 4mm steel from memory. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's 4mm. What I've done is made like a collar, and I welded all down the sides and up here. I've done 3 of the 4 sides. Unfortunately, as you can probably see, maybe not down there, but frustratingly I ran out of welding wire on the very last section, so I need to pop out after the weekend and grab some more. Also, I've given it a good clean down. Where there was any patches of rust, I ground off what I could, and I've treated it with kind of rust remover. I've sprayed that on and let that dry. I've done the same inside up in here, and I've also given it a quick coat of black paint inside just to help protect it from the elements. Also, the lip here was very thin and kind of quite pitted, and there's a load of little pinholes. It's too thin to really weld, it would just blow through. If it was a 600, 700, 800,000 pound pump, I would probably actually just cut off here on both sides, roll some fresh steel, and then weld that in. But honestly, it's just kind of a retro pump to have a bit of fun with and to look good in the yard. I've also filled where there were some pinholes down here. This is just fiberglass reinforced filler. Should be fine for what we need. I'm going to sand that off, and then obviously it'll be ready to be repainted. This lip was a lot worse on this side than the other side, but I will repeat that process on the other side. But for now, the good thing is it's nice and solid. It's back to being one item. I just need to reattach it to the base that's over there. So next I'm going to give it a quick wipe again, and then actually go through and start painting this back to black. I'll get a nice few thick coats in there to make sure it has more life in it for many years to come. I've also, as you can see on here, painted all of the frame. I ground all the rust off and treated that. So now the frame is nice and black. I'll probably give that a second coat also. And I'll need to paint all the vlees, as you can see on here. Most of these need a good rub down and repaint. This one needs to be polished. I need to get some new plexiglass or perspex for that one that's broken. But that's where we are. I'm going to get back to it, grab some welding wire in the week, and then carry on. Next on the hit list, whilst the base and anti-rust paint is drying, I will go over this with black so it goes back to black rather than being a dark grey. Being here at the top, I don't know if you can really see, right down in there, there's a light control unit. What I've done is unbolted it. It's actually a really cool light unit. I don't know if you can see on here, but it says made in England. It's super kind of cast iron and robust. Looking through here, there's a bulb inside of this dome. Like, so this kind of protects the actual bulb from the elements. Looking at it, there's an Allen key here, which I think will take the bottom part off. It will separate in two so I can get to the electrics. I have dumped a plug on the end, a UK plug, to see if it would work. Unfortunately, the bulb in there is knackered. I don't know if you can wobble that, but I can see the element inside moving. I don't know if the camera picks that up. But when looking at it, there's a tiny little Allen key like screw here. I'm going to try and strip this down to get this unit off to get a bulb. Then I can see if the actual unit works, and then I'll go around this, give it a good clean, and then bolt it all back in here. Then going to use the original cabling, which is right over there by the Mobiletti, to actually wire it in, and obviously it then is armor-proof cable, so I can run that through the garden, because ultimately this will be out in the yard. Wish me luck, because I don't want to break this getting it apart. As you can see, I'm still waiting for welding wire. I've given this edge a bit of a tidy up on here, just to make sure I've got something to actually clip the screens and surface mount area into. I've given this a bit of a clean. I'm probably going to have to do it again with some sort of something that's not very abrasive, but there's still some kind of grime and gunk on here. But what's next is the handle of the pump, where it's a diesel pump, and like the hose, you can see it's really kind of disgusting. I'm going to try and use some WD-40 or maybe just some faux liquid first to see if I can get this colour back to a nice red. And then hopefully the welding wire will arrive. I can get the rest of this painted black and then start trying to reassemble some of it so I can focus on the unit or the base bit that is just there. We're at the point now whilst other bits are drying, I want to focus on these side and front and back panels. Sorry, the front panel we won't actually look at because that needs to be polished, that's hiding over there. But these ones, I just had a quick look at this one. It had some quite bad surface rust where the paint had come off, so I'll just ground that back down. I'll probably might give it a little bit of filler, but I'll see how the paint settles in those. What we'll do next is just give them all the clean. This one back here, now you can see, there you go, it's got quite the dent in it, so I'm going to take that off, turn it over and actually hammer it out from the inside to make it a little more smoother when the paint's on. But honestly, I think the black paint will hide most of these marks. I just want to get them to the point where they're weatherproofed. So that's next on the hit list. Progress update. As you can probably see from the shine, it's night, so the big lights are on. It's also super cold in here. You can probably see my breath. It'll probably take about a week for this paint to dry, but fingers crossed by the morning it's dry. I've painted all of the bits here on the side black. These are all the different surrounds where the lock is and the access to the face of the pump itself is. These are the sides to the base. I've also painted the flip side where there was any corrosion or rust or just exposed metal. I've painted all that as well just to protect it and give it a new lease of life. I think that this will look much better when it's dry. Right now it super looks very shiny, but this is actually a satin finish, so it'll be somewhere between gloss and matte. But if I'm not happy, we can always slightly rough it down to make it more matte, but I think this will dry okay, and it should also dry blacker. I've also given the actual pump here on the floor just a quick first coat of the black paint on the areas that I can reach whilst it's flipped on this side. It will certainly need a second coat to really bring that up and make sure it's all well protected. Next though, the aim is to get onto this cool little light unit here. Let me just set you up so you can see. So as you can see on this, let's bring you down. I've undone the grub screws, and actually it's quite a clever little unit. It's actually threaded. I thought it would be like a pull fit or like a click down fit. Inside here there is a pygmy bulb. It's I think 15 watt. So I've replaced one of these. I just did a quick Google image search and found some online. They are pygmy bulbs. If anyone's interested, you can see on here 75 lumens, 15 watt. I'm hoping, judging by the sound of this, you probably can't hear that, the elements inside are knackered. I'm going to replace it with this bulb. I stuck a standard plug on just to see if this works. If it does, we'll then extend that cord into the unit itself, so we've got a underground kind of armoured cable, so we can hide that cable and plug the pump into the mains. So let's put the new bulb in, see if that works. Let's also get a bit more light on here. Careful not to touch the glass, my oily fingerprints, or painty fingerprints, as you can see. Wear gloves, people. Let's give that a test, see if that works, and if it does, we'll put it back together. Ta-da! Simple £2.99 fix. Right, I'm going to reassemble this and then get this bolted back in after I've painted the rest. So as I mentioned in the last part of the video, these had a second coat. I've actually now given them 3 coats and 2 coats on the inside where needed, just to protect those. If this was going to be a full-on restoration, like a showpiece and like a really vintage pump, like I said before, we'd probably panel beat some of these, make sure none of the marks were visible. But honestly, that's the back panel. The others are in better condition than this one. Also, it's got to be a piece of yard art. It's not super vintage. This is just to make it look a lot better and protect it going forward. I've painted these sections on both sides. I had to repair one of these with some chemical metal just to make sure it was nice and secure. These are the fascia bits that go in here where we put the display unit on. This piece, this is also now how 2 coats on most of the panels. I'll do the rest when I can get it up and flip it over. The welding in here is finished. I've also given that 2 coats of black paint, but that's now secured on all 4 sides, nice and strong. It's a good collar to make sure it stays upright. And now it's 1 piece, not 2. Next, we have to get onto the bit I've been putting off. This bit's kind of the ropiest piece of the restoration. Let me show you what I mean. This sits on top of the pump. This goes where we've got the sleeve that we just put the patch on. But as you can see, it is bent, it is full of holes, it is crusty. So I need to pull this apart. What I'm probably going to do is cut round all these areas here and make a new bottom section and then weld that in. Looking on the underside, it's got these tabs here. I'll probably cut these out, grind those down so they look like they can be saved, and then I'll just spot weld these on to a new piece of metal. I'll just use 3 or 4 mil mild steel to make that bottom plate. It's going to be a bit fiddly, but it will certainly be better than what we've got here. Right, let's crack out the cutter and the welder. Now we're going to move on to this piece. This is where the nozzle clips in. Let me grab it quick. Ta-da! However, this will need to be polished and made nice and shiny. So it's this bottom piece. So my next job is going to be probably on the drill to get some very light abrasive pads and some buffing pads and see how well we can, or how good we can make this look. I was going to do these, like I mentioned, with like a buffing wheel on the drill, but actually just with a scouring pad and some elbow grease, they came up pretty good. The light's pretty rubbish because it's now night time, but you can see in here they're looking pretty good. I might go over them again with some fine sandpaper, but let's see how the rest comes out. Next, polishing. So this is the front bit where you can see where the 2 nozzle holes are here. It's got some surface rust and corrosion, but I'm pretty sure most of this will just come off because it's like a stainless steel. But I'm going to try and give this a good clean so it comes up. Fingers crossed it should come out really, really nicely. And sorry if you can see the noise from the heater. It's super cold. See the noise, hear the noise from the heater. We'll probably have to look at this in the daylight, but I've given it a quick polish. Most of the corrosion rust was actually where it transferred off the other metals. But as you can see already, it's looking shiny. And all I've done so far is a bit of old school brasso and some elbow grease, and it's starting to look really good. I'm going to call it quits here for tonight, but then tomorrow I'm going to come back and give it another go. Might actually use a machine polish on it as well to see if it gets it really shiny, maybe kind of like a mirror finish, but for now I'm happy with that. Also put the rails on that clip into the top over there, so they slot into under these bits to hold all the panels on. As you can see, it's on the underside, so I wasn't too worried about getting perfect welds, but these are just spotted on. It's going to be plenty solid enough to hold this in place, and I've just put some spot welds. As you can see, burnt them through into this side. Hope you can see that, the light's a bit rubbish. But these are now on. I'm going to give this a lick of paint so it's black and protected. But yeah, pretty happy with that. It's now one piece again. Whilst this bit is setting up and drying, its first coat of black paint, already looking 10 times better than what was on there. I'm going to move to the next job on the list. Around here there was a piece of like foam, I guess just to stop the panel kind of vibrating or any weather getting through, but it was like super crusty. You can see it here. It's just brittle. Look at that. So what I've done, I popped a screw fix, £5 for 2 of these reels. It's just kind of some foam weather stripping. I'm going to put a new one around here, a new one around here. And I'll be ready then to take the front panel, which is still looking nice and shiny from where we polished it. I'm pretty pleased with how this has turned out. So this is the one that we've made from scratch. It's heavy, probably thicker metal than we needed, but hey, it will last. It's all painted up, all together. I've spot welded these bits on, which hold it to the main base, so it slots on and stays in place. I've also been experimenting with what I want to do for the fascia boards. So in here, you see this gap at the top? That's where you'd have a sign like it would say Petrol, unleaded, diesel, maybe even the brand. I've kind of cut 3 different materials, a copper, some plated black metal, and then some clear perspex. I think I'm going to go for the clear perspex in the slot. Then I'm going to put a diesel sticker in there because it's a diesel pump and it should look quite nice backlit. If not, I'll probably put the black in there and just put some sign writing in there. But I'm going to play around with it once it's lit up and see how it goes. Speaking of lighting it up, the cable is now ran, and inside here, the top right at the back, you probably can't see that. See the bulb? That's all wired in and checked. So my next job now is to get this part attached to that part so I can then get it up on its feet and then start attaching all the fascia plates back in here. Time for another check-in. It's dark, it's cold, but hopefully it will look okay. I've made some good progress. It's motivated me to carry on to the last stage. But first, what I've done, I tidied up the mess. And as you can see, there's now no petrol pump down here, which must mean progress has been made. So I've had to go and play around this side. Ignore the background, but as you can see, it is now one unit. I put some of the logos in, I put the fascias in, the new perspex is in. It's a bit dusty. In fact, the whole thing is a little bit dusty, but it's looking good. This is now motivating me to get the next side on, and by that I mean the fascia around this side. As you can see, not much progress has been made on that side, but so far I'm pretty chuffed how it's coming out. On the inside, what I've done, and I'll put some pictures up around here, is this column that goes down where we put the cuff. The cuff is inside this area here, or about here. Because it's in the garage, I haven't got much height. And outside also, where it's going to go in the yard area behind me, I don't want it to stick out higher than the top of the fence. We've only got like 6'6" here. It might look a bit odd for the neighbours or people passing if they can see this big piece here at the top. So what I've done is on the brackets inside where I've bolted it in, there's 2 bolts about here, 2 bolts about here. I've got about 6 to 10 inches of travel. So I've made 4 tabs and bracket them in. And that means I can move this whole top section up and down. So I can make it like probably 6-7 inches taller easily without kind of having any issues with how it looks inside. I actually quite like it looking more compact, having it all one unit. It's still 6'5", 6'6", if not a bit taller with the garage height. But my next step now is to move on to the other side. Before I assemble it all to show the final result, I thought I'd just quickly update you on the steps and all the parts I've done. So at the base, or at the bottom here, we have the perspex sheet that sits inside the rubber surround. This is the bit that holds it all together with the latch on the back of the lock. The perspex sheet is here, still with its protective cover on. The aim is I'll pull that off at the end so I don't scratch it. This piece attaches to the bottom there. This is a nice piece of alley. I've just polished that with a little bit of wet and dry so it looks nice and shiny. This piece here then sits in the bottom half of the frame, and that lets the secure locking mechanism lock into place. Next, this piece goes on. So this bit will be sat here technically. And then in here from the back slots the sign. This is bit that I've been working on for the last few minutes. I've actually painted the backside black, so the light only shines through the sticker area. The reason I've done that is the sticker is ever so slightly smaller than the surround in the plastic face. I think it's going to look pretty good when it's done, so I'm going to spend the next sort of 10-15 minutes getting it all assembled and put into the unit next to me. Fingers crossed. Once I've done that, I can do a bit of a reveal. I might wait to do it in the sunshine outside when it's not pitch black and cold. But yeah, I'm excited to get this finished. So I think I mentioned in the last bit of the video that I was going to do the reveal. It's now fully assembled. I'm at a point where I can do that. However, it's been about a week because in England we had torrential storms, lots and lots of rain. I put it outside. I've not had a chance then to actually film it all in its location and fully rebuilt because it's either been wet, windy or frozen solid. Finally, it's at a point where it looks good enough outside with all the water and the rain to actually do a bit of a reveal. So let's go and have a look, and then I'll put some beauties at the end and then we can see how that looks. But I'm pretty chuffed with it. Let's have a look. Excuse the mess out here. Half my cover on this car has blown away in said storms. This is the bench I did from a previous video. If anyone wants to take a look at how I did that, just jump back through and have a look. But as you can see here, the pump is looking good. It's currently sat in the ground because I didn't want it to actually poke over the fence and just kind of not be visible from the path on the other side of the fence. In the hole here, it's actually raised about 6 inches off the ground with drainage, so if any water does get in there, it won't be sat in a pool of water. When I move it to a different location, I'll probably raise it up so it'll be sat on a concrete plinth, like if you're at a forecourt of a petrol station. But yeah, it's looking good, and it looks like we have our first customer. Obviously the bike's petrol, this is a diesel pump, but I thought it looked quite cool for the video. But yeah, I'm really chuffed with it. I'll also put up a video in the evening at night time so you can see it with the lights up, when it's lit up, sorry, inside. But yeah, it's looking really, really good. Let's have a look at this side. You can see that the face is done. Hopefully you can see it in there on both sides and it's all done. Obviously it's very grimy and very wet at the moment, but I'll put some good pictures up, some high def ones, just so you can all have a look. But yeah, pretty chuffed. Adds to the yard art. And everyone, thanks everyone for watching.